and goal from the 1. Touchdown.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. And welcome to the Gridiron. And before I get started, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. Thank you very, very much. If you could just give me a thumbs up or maybe leave a comment below, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. 1934, the 10th season in the history of the New York Football Giants, the 15th season in the history of the NFL. It didn't start off too good for the Giants, but it sure ended up really, really good. All right. 1934, there was they had two divisions. They had the Eastern Division and the Western Division. There was 5 teams in each division. Actually, the Western kind of had 6 teams. I'll explain that in a minute. But the Eastern Division, okay, really wasn't a real powerhouse. All right, so the Giants kind of lucked out. They were in the certainly the weaker division, and that certainly helped their chances in 1934. In 1934, the Eastern Division consisted of the New York Football Giants, the Boston Redskins, the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. There you go. A lot of baseball flavor in this. The Giants wind up winning. The Giants were the only team with a winning record. The Giants were 8-5. The Boston Redskins were in second place. They were 6-6. But in the Western Division was where the better teams were. The Chicago Bears were 13-0. The Detroit Lions were 10-3. The Green Bay Packers were 7-6. The Chicago Cardinals were 5-6. The Cincinnati Reds were 0-8. All right, and after they were 0-8, they kind of got kicked out of the league for they weren't paying their league dues, so they got kicked out of the league. And an independent team, the St. Louis Gunners, took the Cincinnati Reds' place for the final 3 games of the season, and the St. Louis Gunners went 1-2. All right. Oh my God, what funny stuff goes on back then. There's a couple rule changes. One of them is just a little kind of weird. It was a forward pass. It was like a handoff. Was what they said online. It was behind the line of scrimmage, and it was like a hand-to-hand forward kind of pass. If it was behind the line of scrimmage and it fell to the ground, right, it wasn't an incomplete pass. It was ruled as a fumble. Okay. I'm not sure if you're actually handing the ball, or if you gotta have to flip. I mean, the way it is nowadays, if a guy runs and you flip it to him, it's a pass. And if it falls to the ground, it's incomplete. I guess back then, if I'm the quarterback and I hand it forward to someone, I guess it's ruled as a pass, even if I'm just handing it to them. And if it were to fall to the ground, it was ruled as a fumble. Now, the one that's kind of interesting is that prior to 1934, any pass, all right, that was incomplete was a loss it down. Incomplete pass, you throw the ball on second down. If it's incomplete, now it's third down. But back then, like 1933, 32 and all, if it went incomplete, it was the loss of down. Plus, you lost 5 yards. So, wow, what a kick in the pants, huh? You got to throw a ball like that back then, and you actually lost 5 yards. It was like a 5-yard penalty. But starting 1934, okay, it was just an incomplete pass. You just, lost it down. You throw it on second down, it's incomplete. Now it's third down. So you didn't lose any 5 yards or nothing like that. It's weird. Some of the rules that they had. The Portsmouth Spartans, okay, moved from Ohio and they went to Detroit and they became the Lions, right? So the Detroit Lions, that 1934 was the first year that their name, Detroit Lions, was in use. The Cincinnati Reds, all right, they said they were 0-8. They played their home game in four different parks. Every home game they played was like in a different park. They played in Cincinnati's Crosby Field, all right. Then they played in the Dayton Triangle Park. They played in the Portsmouth University Stadium. And the last one they played in Xavier University's Corcoran Stadium. There you go. So 4 games, all in different stadiums. The league leaders, all right, it's a little different what it is now. The passing leader was Arnie Hebner from Green Bay. He led the league with 799 passing yards. The rushing leader was Betty Feathers from the Chicago Bears. He led the league with 1,004 yards. However, he was the first rusher in NFL history to rush for over 1,000 yards in a season. And he ran for 1,004 yards on 101 carries. He averaged 10 yards a carry. Pretty special. And the receiving leader was Harry Ebding from the Detroit Lions with 264 yards receiving. Wow. Some guys do that every now and then, do 264 yards in a game. Took him a whole season to get 264 yards. The Thanksgiving Day game between the Bears and the Lions became the first NFL game to be broadcast nationally. As I said, the Giants' season didn't start off too well, but it sure ended great. All right. They lost their first 2 games of the season. They lost 9-0 to the Lions. They always have a hard time beating the Lions, even way back then. Then they lost 20-6 to the Bears. But then they won 8 of their next 10 games. Right? And so they were 8-4. Then they lost the last game of the season. It was a meaningless game, pretty much, to the Eagles, because by that time, because the Boston Redskins already had 6 losses and the Giants were 8-4. So even if didn't matter if they lost to the Eagles or not, they had the Eastern Division wrapped up by then. So as I said, the Bears were 13-0. They were riding on going back to 1933. All right, they were riding on a 18-game winning streak. All right, but if they were 13-0, they were favored, and they were a better team, and if they won, they'd been 14-0, and they'd be also included with the 1972 Dolphins as an undefeated team. The Bears beat the Giants twice during the season. The second game of the season, they beat them 20-6, but that was in Chicago. They beat the Giants 10-9 at the Polo Grounds. They scored 10 points in the final quarter. The Giants were winning 9-0. Going into the last quarter, but the Bears pulled it out. They got a field goal and a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and then they beat the Giants 10-9. But other than that, the Bears have a phenomenal team. They're whooping up, beating up on people quite a bit. I think they had, in their 13 games, I think they outscored their opponents by 200 points. Okay, so that's pretty impressive. They beat the Giants by 1 point. So that meant in their other 12 victories, they won by 199 points. So they won basically the average winning margin is about 15 points a game. That's a lot. For right now, that's a lot. Back then, where you didn't score that many points, winning by an average of 15 points a game is a lot. So the championship game, you see now how it is like sometimes we got the Super Bowls like in February. Well, here the championship game was played at the Polo Grounds on December 9th, 1934, in front of 35,059 fans. They were expecting to have well over 55,000, I believe, but with the bad weather, it kept it down to 35,000. It's famously called the sneaker game. The field was frozen. All right, it made it tough. The Bears. I'm just looking at a lot of stuff, reading online and everything. and it's tough. You get very conflicting reports. They had new cleats, apparently, the Bears, and in the first half, and pretty much by like halftime, they were broken off, or filed down like nothing. So by the second half, they had like almost no traction whatsoever. The Bears ran the ball, the box score that I saw, they ran the ball 46 times and got 89 yards rushing. The Giants ran the ball 37 times and got 173 yards rushing, but a lot of that came in the second half. The Bears threw the ball 15 times, completed 6 passes for 76 yards. They also threw 3 interceptions. The Giants were 7 out of 12 for 103 yards. They had 1 touchdown pass and 2 interceptions. Total yards in the game, the Bears had 165, the Giants had 276. The Bears had a 10-3 lead at halftime, and they extended the lead to 13-3 in the third quarter. Okay, and then this is where the magic starts happening. So let's bring it back a little bit. Okay, so before the game started, I believe they said the game started like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. John Mara, was, I believe, that the team treasurer. He was walking on the field before the game, and he noticed an icy field because it was raining out. And then, during the day that particular day, I believe Papa Harris, the coach of the Bears, said when he went to church that day on Sunday, that the temperature was like 9 degrees. He said it was like raining during the week. He said, I was reading, like possibly like a nor'easter came, overnight, and the temperature plummeted, and the tarp was frozen to the field. So John Mara, before the game, was walking and noticed the icy conditions. He told Coach Steve Owen and also the captain Ray Flaherty of the bad conditions. Now, Ray Flaherty in 1925 played for Gonzaga College, and he recalls something like this happening, and they put on basketball sneakers, which gave them greater traction and helped them, win the football game. So what they did was, and this is like folklore. I'm like watching videos, I'm reading this, I'm reading that, and there's like all kinds of conflicting, which makes it kind of interesting, how nowadays it's like you know everything that's going on and all. Well, we're talking 85 years ago almost, So it's like kind of tales, You're not exactly sure what's happening, and you know what? You're never ever going to know exactly sure what happened. But so what they had was at before the game started. All right, and I've heard before the second half, before the first half was over, they had a locker room attendant, Abe Cohen. Guy was real short, was like 5 foot tall. He worked at Manhattan College. He was like a tailor, and he made their uniforms and all. So they have Abe Cohen, and they had a guy Gus Mock who also worked for the Giants, and he also worked at Manhattan College. All right, now this is where the tales kind of grow on down the line here. I heard that they put Abe Cohen in a taxi, and they sent him down to Manhattan College to get basketball sneakers. I heard some reports where he went onto a subway and he went down to Manhattan College. I heard where he had a key, because he worked there, to a locker room, and he got in the locker room and he got in and he got sneakers. I heard he got down there and he had to break into the locker room to get the sneakers. I also heard this guy Gus Mock, who worked for the Giants, who also worked at Manhattan College, made like a phone call and contacted somebody down there. And when Abe Cohen got down there, Abe Cohen met with somebody down at Manhattan College, and he gave him the sneakers. Here are all different kind of conflicting reports, so I'm not exactly sure, what happened. All I know is that Abe Cohen came back with sneakers. Now, this is another conflicting report. I heard he came back just before the second half started. I heard he came back just in the third quarter. I heard the guys put the shoes on just before the third quarter started. I heard they putting the sneakers on in the third quarter. heard all kinds of things. I heard he came back with 8 pairs of shoes. I heard he came back with 9 pairs of shoes, 10 pairs of shoes, 12 pairs of shoes. Once again, very conflicting reports. All I know is he came back with a bunch of sneakers from Manhattan College. Now, there wasn't enough to supply the whole team. So also, what I was reading as well too is that the coach wanted the ends and the running backs to have superior footing. All right. So he gave the sneakers to those guys. Now, obviously, weren't all perfect matches, but from what I was reading is that sneakers were better than no sneakers. So even if you had a size sneaker on that was maybe a size or too big or maybe a little too tight or something like that, it was better than nothing, Most of them were probably too big because it was from the basketball team. The guys in the basketball team are usually taller than football players are. So, but he came back with as many sneakers as he can find. The Giants got very good footing. Now, it didn't start kicking in right away because the Giants were losing 10-3 at halftime. The Bears picked the pass off in the third quarter, which wound up giving the Bears good field position, and they wound up kicking a field goal in the third quarter. And going into the fourth quarter, the Bears were still winning 13-3. All right, but then this is where, the magic started happening. The Giants, the sun started setting down, and the field started icing up again, and the Bears had almost no traction. All the cleats that they had, all the cleats were all broken off, and they had no traction whatsoever. And the Giants had some far superior traction. The first touchdown that the Giants scored in the fourth quarter. All right, they scored 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. All right, the first touchdown was Ed Danowski went back to pass. He threw a pass. Okay, now what it wound up being was the Giants kind of had one receiver around the 1 yard line, and then had the other receiver guy, Ike Frankian, at around the 5 yard line. So they were 3 or 4 yards apart. Now, if you look at the film, what it was, Danowski either overthrew to one receiver or he threw it short to the other receiver. You pick your choice. But in between the 2 receivers was a Bear defender. The Bear defender stuck his hand out at the ball, was pulling it in, and the ball slipped and it either went over his. Tried to pull it in, but it went either under his armpit or over his shoulder. And Ike Frankian was kind of standing right there. He got the ball and he walked into the end zone and scored a touchdown. Giants got a little lucky on that one. So they scored to make the score now is 13-10. Giants get the ball back. Ken Strong runs for 42 yards and gets a touchdown. Now the Giants are winning 17-13. The place is starting to go crazy. Giants get the ball back again. Ken Strong runs for another 11-yard touchdown. The extra point was no good, but the Giants were up 23-13, and the game's pretty much out of reach by now because the Bears would have to score 2 times, and things weren't looking too good. Giants got the ball back again, and Ed Danowski scored the final touchdown on a 9-yard touchdown run. They kicked the field goal, the extra point, and the Giants won 30-13 in an absolutely amazing game. It's called the Sneaker Game. It's one of the top-rated bad weather games of all time. It's also one of the more memorable games of all time. Unfortunately, it's back from 1934. There's not a lot of film footage of it, but it's called the Sneaker Game. And just to show you, Tim Mara, the owner of the Giants, made sure that all the sneakers got back to Manhattan College so that the team could practice basketball the following day. Well, apparently, all the sneakers were sent back, and they were received the next day at Manhattan College, but they were a little bit beaten up, and the guy who got the sneakers was a little bit pissed. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. You guys stay safe out there, and go Giants! Woo!